Hello everyone and welcome to the Yu-Gi-Oh video on the channel. Episode 58 of Go Rush just came out, and once again I'm recording this part of the video before I've seen it. This video contains spoilers for the show up to episode 58, so if you don't want that, you should turn this video now and come back after you've watched Go Rush. I'll also only be going over the sub as I have not watched the dub for this show. And now let's jump into episode 58. First, there are a few things that I want to go over that already happened. Yuhi's gotten carded after being defeated by Tremolo, who has a maximum with a pretty broken final effect. Ron has a card that she tries to offer as Yuhi, but he declines and says that he's not the one it needs to go to. Yuhi probably means that it should go to Yumu. Did Ron steal Yuka-chan's card, or one of the pieces of Phaser's maximum? Yuka-chan's card is probably more likely. Speaking of the maximum cards though, it's very probable that the maximum cards are actually carded people, which is pretty dark. Let's be real. Yuhi appears to realize something about the maximums, possibly this, but he gets carded before saying what it is, so we don't know. Tremolo also calls his maximum cards his little cuties, which certainly reinforces this. It also gives us a clear answer for how maximum cards are in Go Rush in the first place, because they were created from ID cards and 7s, and as I've said before, I don't think ID cards are in Go Rush. This does create a bit of a problem though. As far as we know, people only get carded when they lose to maximums. If they need maximums to card people and they need carded people to make maximums, then where do the first maximum cards come from? It wasn't Magnum Overload, because Udius is currently in possession of it and it was hidden away by Yuga-chan before that, unless Phaser stole it and Yuga-chan managed to steal it back. But there is actually something similar that could have happened. I've talked about this before. For the full discussion, see my theory response video. I'll link it in the cards above. But I believe that Phaser has stolen Yggdrago, which is Nail's ace that was in Yuka-chan's deck when he went into the hyperspace at the end of 7s. If this is true, then Phaser could have just used Yggdrago to card people and then created his own. Also, Tremolo is fiercely protective of his brother, and tends to go a bit overboard. Seriously, that's a bit extreme. Could this be related to the Phaser's secret that Yuhi tricks Tremolo into admitting exists? And when Yuhi gets into some trouble, thanks to a flash grenade growing off in his face, Ron pulls a Sogetsu style and helps him out. Will she do that again? Maybe with Yumu? And then, of course, there's the Power Bond that Yuhi apparently runs. Power Bond being the signature card of Cyrus and Zane. Will we get more cards like that? More throwbacks to earlier shows? Almost certainly not signature monsters, because we all know that multiple people can't run the same archetype for the most part, but I don't know, maybe Yumu has Lord of D stashed away somewhere in her deck. It would actually fit really well, if it's in Rush Duels. But now to what I think is actually going to happen in the episode. As you can probably guess from this segment, I think it's probably going to be something of a recap episode. Let me explain how I predicted this, because you usually can predict recaps. But in this case, I think it makes sense. At the end of the last episode, Ron finds Udius and Yumu and informs them that Yuhi has been carded. We didn't really get to see Yumu's reaction to that though, because the episode ended. Interestingly enough, Udius seemed more distressed about Yuhi than Yumu did. This kind of makes sense because Yuhi is Udius' best friend, so it makes sense why he would be very upset about this. Yumu, on the other hand, I personally think she was just in shock. Either she didn't sense it through their twin bond, or she did and she was hoping she was wrong. We've seen multiple times that Yuhi and Yumu have an extremely close bond, to the point where they can actually speak for each other if the other one isn't able to speak for themselves. And we've seen this twice already. The first time was when Udius was dueling Zuizhou on top of the tower. Yuhi was unconscious and unable to speak to Udius, so Yumu did so for him. And the other time was right before Mutsuba Town transformed into a spaceship. Yumu was on a smaller spaceship that was flying, and was too far away to talk to Udius, so Yuhi told Udius what Yumu wanted to tell him. And before you say, oh, well that was just in Season 1 and it's been 2 years, even in Season 2 we still seen evidence of the bond being there. When Yumu's dueling Asaka, Yumu can sense when she and Yuhi are having the same vision. Or is it Yuhi sensing Yumu? Maybe the bond isn't as strong as in Season 1, but I still think Yumu would notice if Yuhi suddenly disappeared. Or maybe she didn't notice because Yuhi is alive inside the card. In Arc 5, the show that introduced carding people, it stated that doing so is just a method of capturing and containing their life force. So maybe Yuhi let himself get carded on purpose because he knew that he would still be conscious, and able to convey information to Yuumu through their bond, so he's planning to spy on Phaser. If not though, I think this episode is going to feature Yuumu shocked and downcast, like an I can't believe he's really gone thing. This episode is also primarily going to be focused on Udius, Yuumu, and Ronron as they plan what to do. Since Season 2 started, 9 people have gotten carded. 6 of their allies got carded in the last episode alone. 6! That's ridiculous for Go Rush. Udius now has Yuka-chan's maximum, Magnum Overload, but they clearly still need to come up with some kind of plan. And this is where the flashbacks come in. I think they're going to do flashbacks as they recap what happened in order to come up with a new plan. And Ronron's going to give Yuumu the card that she tried to give Yuhi, which will most likely impact their plans. And thanks once again to Dylan's spoilers. I know that Rovian's going to be dueling some time in the next couple episodes, but I don't think it's going to happen just yet. I think it's going to be next week's episode. Let me explain. Last episode, Rovian was about to send Fisher Sky on some kind of dangerous investigation that we don't know what it is yet. I think she's going to send him, them? I don't know, I'll just use they, them for Fisher Sky for now, since there are multiple Skyfish. I think she's going to send them to spy on Phaser and the MIK. And either at the end of this episode or the beginning of the next episode, Phaser's going to find out, and she's going to end up dueling either Phaser or Tremolo. Tremolo is probably more likely, especially considering how protective of his brother he is. But now, over to my future self for the episode review. So things are happening out of nowhere again. Manabu betrays the MIK, not really since he was a spy, but he steals a scroll and an anti-card to Mata Beam out of the vault. He brings them to UTS, where he and Yondastar promptly get tied up and locked up. They really don't trust him. Yuumu's the only one who actually understands what's going on. Admittedly, the rest of them not trusting him, that makes sense. But then Zuijo shows up the back door out of nowhere and goes, "It's not time to face the enemy yet, Udius." Everyone's like, "Wait, what? Zuijo, what are you doing here?" But I think the thing that surprised me most in the scene is that Zuijo actually knocked. I would not have expected that. I would have expected him to not be rude about it, but just come in. I wouldn't have expected him to knock. Also, this reminds me that I literally predicted this. A little while ago, I was watching a Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything video, and Dylan said that he couldn't really see Zuijo showing up in this arc, and I thought that was pretty fair. However, I said that if Zuijo did show up, either Udius would contact him for help, or Zuijo would just show up, and that's exactly what just happened. So, yes, I actually predicted this. Go me! But back to the video. Manabu ends up challenging Zuijo to a duel, and Noah and Muta, who showed up right after Zuijo did, tell Manabu that if he loses, he has to become their underling. Which he is now, since he lost, so we'll see how that works. Udius offers Zuijo Magnum Overload, since Manabu has a maximum, but Zuijo just disses Manabu and goes, "That's unnecessary, I'm going to beat him anyway." Right before the duel is about to start, I predicted more things and said, "Manabu, you may have a maximum, but you're facing Zuijo. You're not winning." They both have really good first turns. Zuijo goes first and immediately sends Fusion, Black Hole, and Requiem to the grave, and then resurrects Requiem back to his field. And it brings back Fusion and Black Hole later in the duel. Manabu then gets out a first turn maximum and proceeds to use an equip spell on it and destroy Requiem. He says, "Look how strong I am!" Danoa and Muta immediately smack him down by saying, "Your maximum and equip are the strong ones, not you. Don't get them confused." Manabu starts acting really weird, and everyone's like, "Wait, wasn't that just an act to fool Phaser?" But then he starts zapping Danoa and Muta with the anti-card to Mata Beam. I know they were irritating him and making him mad, but that's going a bit too far. He says, "This is the might of MIK's tech." To which I respond, "Dude, you're digging a grave for yourself and it just keeps getting deeper." I think he also kind of threatens the main group. That's not helping. Zuijo calls him a weak coward, and Manabu replies, "I don't want to hear that from you of all people." Zuijo retrieves Fusion from his grave and uses it to Fusion summon Void of Apocalypse, which actually looks really cool. Seriously, look at that. He asks Damu for help. He actually calls them by their name now. And Udius says, "Wait, no, don't do that." But then Damu cuts him off and they're like, "No, it's fine, I want to help." Everyone's like, okay. Zuijo uses Elgil Velkiar, which is the thing he used in Season 1 to make his monsters tangible. He uses his monster to protect Noa and Muta, which, good job, Zuisho, protect your friends. Manabu calls it petty tricks. Really? Zuisho retrieves Black Hole from the grave and activates it, but nothing is destroyed due to various effects, so it fizzles. Manabu calls Zuisho naive. Zuisho equips his fusion monster with Void Ovelg Shroud, activates another effect, and attacks, but Manabu pulls a fast one on him and negates his attack with a trap. I responded to the equip with Ike, Zuisho, which feels really weird to be saying after Season 1, but he's on their side now, so... At this point, Manabu acting weird really kicks into overdrive. He activates his Maximus effect again, bringing Zuisho down to 400 life points, so that should give you an idea of how close Manabu came to actually winning this. I can't believe he brought Zuisho to under 500. I mean, I knew this was going to be an uphill battle, but I wasn't expecting Zuisho to run that low on life points. Manabu activates another effect to destroy Zuisho's monsters, so Zuisho is now wide open. Manabu is about to absolutely obliterate him, and when Yandastar tells him to back off, he pulls over the Ankai Karutomata weapon and I think is about to try and zap the main group. To which I responded, Manabu, you do realize there's only one Velgiarian standing there, and the beam doesn't even affect him for some reason. And Velgiar can just fly out of the way. This isn't even going to work. Then he fires it and realizes that he's not attacking the main group, he's zapping Dodoa and Muta again, but this time he's also attacking Zuisho. Zuisho, however, fights through the pain and activates his trap. He revives Requiem from the grave and asks for Damu's help again. Despite still being zapped, he uses Ego Velgiar once again. And then he performs the most powerful Urtamur maneuver ever. He merges with his monster and uses an appropriately named trap to strike back and win the duel. Nyandastar and the others have absolutely no sympathy for Manabu, and Zuisho destroys the anti-Karutomata machine. Manabu makes a comment about how that's not solid vision, but like, he was there during the duel in the tower, so did he just forget that? This Dr. Sogetsu Manabu mode, which is what I'm calling it since we have no name for it yet, seems to be Manabu's version of Gakuto's Gakuting. We've seen characters before that have similar things to their Seven's relatives, like Roman and Rovian sharing Berserk mode, and Lukun and Luke being absolutely clueless about most things. However, Manabu seems to not remember anything that happened after entering this mode, so that's a bit weird. When Gakuto exits his Gakuting mode, he still remembers what happened during it. After the duel, Udius realizes that Zuisho has informed him of another brilliant tactical decision. Of course, Yumu also tried to tell him the same thing, but if Zuisho hadn't showed up, Udius probably would have just ignored Yumu and gone after Phaser anyway. Yet another example of the bond between Udius and Zuisho. And we finally get to learn what Phaser's secret is. Kind of. We see a conversation between Phaser and Tremolo, and Tremolo conveniently doesn't tell him about Ron escaping with the card. I mean, he did make that comment about, oh, my older brother's going to be so mad, so that's fair. However, Tremolo does tell him about Manabu's quote-unquote betrayal, and that Manabu took BlazeBolt, Chemistorm, Vocalized Phoenix, aka his maximum, and an anti-Karutomata beam. Phaser says to not worry and to leave it alone. Tremolo says okay, tells him that he's going to head home, and leaves the room. Phaser then doubles over in pain, and the next shot we see is of Tremolo bringing unconscious Phaser to some random person's house. Is this a friend of theirs? And are their parents around, or are Phaser and Tremolo living by themselves? It just hit me when Tremolo mentioned going home that we haven't seen or heard anything about their parents. It's like Yusaku's parents from Brains all over again. We have nothing on them. Tremolo makes comments about how Phaser has ended up here again, which sounds like this has happened to Phaser multiple times. Is Phaser sick or something? Or, hey, I just thought of something. When Otis, yes, I refer to the creator as Otis, when Otis was trying to control Zuisho during the Battle of Velgiar, the pain appeared to be similar to this. Is Phaser secretly a Velgiarian that, like, changed his name or something? Or is Otis just trying to control Phaser, and it's harder on Phaser than it was on Zuijo because Phaser isn't a Volgarian? I mean, Zuijo didn't pass out. You could say it came down to inner strength, but both of them seem pretty strong, so I don't think that's it. If it does turn out that Phaser and Tremolo, or at least Phaser, are secretly Volgarian, clearly Udius doesn't know that or recognize them, or he probably would have said something by now. Zuijo might know them, though. When he showed up earlier in the episode, he said that there was still one thing on Earth that worried him. Maybe that's Phaser. Oh, I can just imagine that reveal. Yes, the thing that worried me was him. Phaser Volgiar! Everyone's like, what? Zuijo then goes on to reveal that the name Ryugu was the name of, like, Phaser's other brother that died or something. There's no way, though. There's no way. He's probably sick or something. There's no way Phaser's a secretly Volgarian. So yeah, we've discovered Phaser's secret. He has some kind of weakness that occasionally makes him pass out from pain and assumingly needs to be taken to a doctor. In the doctor's house, we also see a pile of the seemingly blank scrolls. Manabu brought one to UDS, but they thought it was useless since it appeared to be blank. But that pile in the doctor's house makes me think that it's not useless after all. And you know who else found Phaser's secret? Fisher Sky! One of the Skyfish was spying on him when he was at the doctor's house, so UDS and the others are probably going to learn about this in the next episode. Also, oh my goodness, I just realized that it's only been 7 episodes since the season started, and this is already the point we're at. This is going so fast. Which, to be clear, I don't have a problem with, but it feels like a lot longer than 7 episodes. Hi, future me here. So, I was doing some thinking. Obviously, Zuijo won the duel with Manabu. But if he hadn't won, he would have been carded since he lost to Manabu's maximum. Or, well, he would have. He didn't actually lose, obviously. But, thing is, I don't think he could have come back from that. If he did get carded, I don't think he would be able to come back. The show that introduced the carding method, Arc 5, has one of the characters in it say, oh, carding people is just a method of capturing and containing a person's life force. So going by that, despite the fact that all the Cardumata, everybody on Volgiar, including Zuijo, can come back, in fact, we've seen this multiple times, that Zuijo has died and come back, but if he gets carded, I don't think he can come back. He's just going to be stuck like that until UDS and the others find a way to reverse it. Seriously though, the show better not do that to us. Like, they better not card Zuijo. Like, it would be one thing if, oh, he gets carded, the card disappears, and he just immediately goes to Go Rush U. But no, I don't think he can come back. If he gets carded, he's just stuck like that. The show better not do that to us. And that wraps up episode 58. Please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you next time for another Yu-Gi-Oh video.